We're live. All right. Week two of the NFL season is, kind of come and gone. We're going into week three, but before we can get into week three later on this week, we're going to recap week two. Um, Pretty great week capped off by a very heartbreaking end of the week on Monday night. Big shout out to Nick Chubb and all that are involved there. It's pretty gruesome injury, honestly. And hopefully he's able to just return. I think a lot of people are just kind of assuming he's going to be back. And with an injury that severe, I don't feel like you honestly can just assume that. So I am hoping that he's able to return. And it's not like a Todd Gurley situation where he's never the same. Uh, and
How old
also
is he?
Shaq. Let me see.
Good
I'm going to
question.
guess 26, but
I'm,
I
I'm
could be
gonna go.
wrong.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
go
say 28.
27.
All right.
Here we go.
Watch me like 24.
No shot.
He ain't that young.
No shot.
He's 27.
Bang!
I only
There you
took
go.
28 because you took 27.
I took 27 because he took 26.
So he's like 80 in running back years.
He's definitely on the back end. So also shout out to Shaq Thompson. I feel like it kind of got overshadowed by the fact that he got carted off with the shin injury, and he might be out for an extended period of time too in the Saints game. So shout out to him. Hopefully he gets to feeling a little bit better and is able to come back and maybe if not this year, just in general, finish the season out. So I think we can go ahead and get started burning through a couple of these games. Um, I want to go ahead and start with some of the games from the 12 o'clock window, and we'll kind of move from there. The first game I have on my list is the Ravens versus Bengals, 27-24 Ravens. They go into Cincinnati and combine for 415 total yards. Pretty close game, but a lot of offense on the Ravens side. A lot of people kind of noted that the calf still seems to be an issue for Joe, and he re-aggravated it again this game. Don't know if he's going to play this week. But again, it really just came down to an interception on the Bengals side, 3-point game. So, turnovers are crucial. Uh, D. Higgins still did have 2 touchdowns, which was pretty promising after putting up 0 fantasy points last week. Really killed me last week in that regard. But Ravens' running game continues to be pretty stout, even after J.K. Dobbins is out for the year. Gus Edwards averaged over 6 yards a carry the entire game. So, pretty solid little feat there, especially against a Bengals defensive line that's known to be pretty decent. So, question I have for you guys is after starting 0-2 for the second season in a row, can you see the Bengals going to the playoffs this year? Just an FYI, 11% chance historically to make the playoffs after going 0-2 to start the year.
uh, I think they definitely can. I'd still say they're going to the playoffs. They just they have to protect Burrow with that injury better, and that's just been the question mark for the Bengals for years. As soon as he feels like he's comfortable enough, I guess, behind that line, then I don't think that calf injury is going to be as much of an issue as people are saying it is now. If they could just give him like just a half a second longer, I feel like these receivers are going to get open. They have one of the best receiving cores in the league. Their defense is average, I'd say. So I think they have a recipe that they've shown the last few years that they can get to the playoffs, even get to a Super Bowl. And I think that this team is still young enough to where they're Super Bowl contenders, even still being in an 0-2 hole that they're in.
Yeah. So the Bengals' next 3 games are the Rams, the Titans, and the Cardinals. It's a nice little stretch to get back on track. But after that, they play 3 playoff teams from last year. They got the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Bills. They play the Texans and then go back to the Bengals or the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Jaguars. So they don't have an easy schedule. They play in a tough division where they could easily finish third or fourth, especially starting off 0-2. So, I mean, the Steelers aren't a bad team. They're always going to compete. The Ravens are, in my opinion, the best team in that division. And then you have the Browns, who are a good, not great team. So it's tough. It's going to be tough to climb back into contention, as well as like the AFC's decent. You know, it's a pretty good conference. So if it was the NFC, I would say different, but with AFC, you know, it's a little bit tougher. So they can, but I'm gonna go ahead and say they won't make it. I feel like the calf thing is just gonna just follow Joe Burrow for the whole season, and it's gonna be one of those things that just makes him not the Joe Burrow we know.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and switch over to the NFC side in this 12 o'clock window. We had a shootout over in Detroit. 37-31 Seahawks winning in overtime. This game was really defined for the Lions with turnovers and injuries, and they still only lost by 6 points. They had 2 lost fumbles and an interception, but they did still come out of the game with 418 total yards, which this game in general had 800 total yards, over 800 total yards. A lot of offense, not a lot of defense. Both running backs were great. Kenneth Walker played well. Dave Montgomery played well until he got hurt. So he's going to be out a couple weeks. James Houston is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. And on top of that, Amon-Ra didn't finish the game as well. They said it was cramps, but I saw something today stating that they saw a plate in his shoe, so they're actually thinking it's turf toe, which if anybody has had a player on their favorite team get turf toe, it's just kind of a lingering injury that seems to bother people for the entire year. And to get it in week 2 of a 17-game season is not promising. It took overtime to decide it, but the Seahawks still came out on top. So for this game, which way are you leaning? Are the Seahawks back? Did they show enough to say that, you know, this is the Seahawks team from last year that led the NFL in offense? Or are the Lions' injuries starting to pile up and becoming too much?
I think it was more the Seahawks getting back on track. I think they're in the NFC, the weaker side. They're a good team. They're not up in the level of those elite teams that we all know, but they're a good team. They have a good offense. And as I was watching this game, or watching the score pop up on the bottom during the Raiders game, I kept saying, like, whoever gets the ball last in that game is going to win. Because let me just go through the box score. It went 7-0, 7-7, 14-7, 14-14. 21-14, 21-17, 24-21, 31-21, 31-28, 31-31, and then 37-31. So it was just back and forth like the whole time. And so that's why I was saying whoever gets the ball last is going to win that game. And it ultimately was the Seahawks in overtime, and they punched it in with a walk-off win. So I think these teams are somewhat around the same level, and I still think the Lions may be a little bit better of a team. The Seahawks just got the ball last.
There's a blatant hold on that last play too, but you know we don't care enough to talk about that because it's not our teams. With that being said, I will say this: there are probably 3 elite teams in the NFC, and whenever those 3 teams or in any other team in the NFC play against each other, besides those 3 elite teams, it's going to be like one of these games. It could go all sorts of different ways. It could be a blowout, it could be a shootout, it could be a low scoring game, you know, it could be anything really, because nobody really knows what's in that middle of the pack of the NFC, and that's where both these teams lie. So sure, the Seahawks may, you know, be back as far as like their offense goes, but I'm not impressed with either of these teams. I feel like the Lions could have made a statement victory here, but they didn't. They kind of blew it, in my opinion. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, what it seems like it might be the rest of the year because of a torn pec. So they definitely walk out of this game with some concerns.
All right. Talking about injury concerns, we'll move to a game where injuries were an issue. We had the Colts playing the Texans. Colts win 31-20. 2 rookie quarterbacks in this game, Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. Unfortunately, Anthony Richardson did leave early with concussion protocol, but still scored 2 touchdowns early on the ground, looked really well running the ball. Gardner Minshew actually came on in relief and was solid, threw for 171 yards and a touchdown and had over an 80% completion percentage. So that's really good to see your backup come in and be able to, you know, throw for 80% completion and score touchdowns. So Texans, on the other hand, were able to compete in the game the whole way up until the end with a really shitty offensive line, a couple third-string guys against the Colts front four that's really good. Forced 6 sacks, a forced fumble against the Texas team that was forced to throw a ball a lot. They threw over 40 times. Damian Pierce only averaged 2.1 yards per carry, so they weren't able to really do anything on the ground. And CJ Stroud now leads the league in pass attempts and threw 47 pass attempts this game and did not throw a pick. So I think for a rookie quarterback, being able to throw the ball 47 times and not turning it over is pretty impressive. So question here would just be, which quarterback is in the better situation moving forward in terms of development? Do you like what they're doing with CJ and just allowing them to air the ball out and just throw the damn rock? Or do you like what you're seeing out of Anthony Richardson more?
For fantasy, it's obviously Anthony Richardson, but for real life, what we talk about, I like what I'm seeing from CJ Stroud. They're allowing him to go through his reads, throw the ball, which is the type of quarterback he was in college, and he would run when he needed to. So I think the Texans, ironically enough, I think the Texans have kind of made the right strides with Stroud and Will Anderson, and I think on obviously the only thing they can go from here is up. So I like what I'm seeing from Stroud. Not saying I don't like what I'm seeing from Anthony Richardson, but I think Stroud's taken a more NFL leap than Richardson so far.
Yeah, I feel like CJ is probably in the better spot. I feel like expectations weren't super high coming into the season for the Texans, so he can just kind of play, and ultimately that's what you want with your rookie quarterback. You just want them to kind of play, get the feel of, get their feet wet. Not everybody's going to be a Hall of Famer their first year. Actually, probably nobody's going to show that kind of potential their first year. So like allowing him just to play and throw the ball and just get some reps. It's definitely like a stepping stone in his career. Whereas I feel like expectations are also super low in Indy. Anthony Richardson has something to prove because, to the outside world, he is just like this athletic quarterback who, isn't like maybe doesn't have like the quarterback or like the NFL arm for a quarterback, like that type of ability. So it's nice seeing him run around and score, but you would definitely like to see him throw the ball and have more than 5 yards per completion. So.
All right. Now, two quarterbacks in different situations coming into this year in terms of expectations. One was expected to be shitty. One was expected to actually, be really good. Bears going to Tampa Bay and lose 17-27. So Bucks end up being 2-0. Baker looked great again. 400 yards of total offense, no turnovers. Most teams are going to win when you put that together, right? 317 yards in the air for Baker, 171 of those going to Mike Evans for the only passing touchdown of the game. The Bears kept it close for the most part up until the end. They did struggle again, 2 interceptions late in the game, but they did still have 104 yards to DJ Moore, so he kind of showed, it's kind of a showing out party like, hey, I'm here. But was not a great game for Justin Fields, and a game that left even more questions about his ability to be the starting quarterback for the Bears. So do you guys feel that Justin Fields can turn it around? And how much do you think it falls on the actual play caller calling the offense around Justin?
So I'm to the point where there was like a small glimmer of hope inside me, where it was like maybe he will take a step with DJ Moore, but I'm to the point to where I'm cutting it off. I don't think he's going to ever take a major step in passing. And there was multiple clips of that game, just simple vertical reads that every team runs. The safety and the corner both went with the outside receiver, and there was a guy screaming up the seam. It was a cover 3, and the free safety came with the tight end on a drag. So the seam was literally just screaming wide open in the end zone. And Fields, first of all, didn't see it. When he got back to him on the read, didn't throw it, and then he just ran right into a sack. So I would say play calling hasn't been good. They ran 3 screens in a row, which is what led to that pick 6. So that can't happen. You can't run 3 screens in a row. But Fields has got to take a next step in reading defenses and going through his progressions because he has not shown any kind of that at all.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with Justin Fields is, and this is really with any like young quarterback that has like mobility, is sometimes they'll use that as like a crutch, and they'll use that over trying to make the play with their arm. So last year he had a ton of success on the ground, and so he's trying to replicate that this year. And I feel like teams are more prepared for Justin Fields to take off and try to run, and so they're challenging him to pass the ball, and he's not answering that challenge too well. Like I've seen and I've heard is like they're not letting him, as far as like coaching wise, they're trying to like protect him. I feel like by doing these short and like intermediate throws, but at the same time he's also missing reads whenever they do want to take a shot down the field. So you want to see Justin Fields take that next step, but so far it's like he's bad. And last year we made fun of him throughout the whole year. We said he was ass, and the statement still stands right now.
All right, moving on. We had the Chiefs go to Jacksonville and win this one 17-9. Absolute grind of a game. Honestly, I watched a lot of this game. Chiefs amassed almost 400 total yards, but only scored 2 touchdowns. That's definitely not ideal for any offense. Jags didn't score a touchdown. They had 3 field goals, and that was it. Which is really weird considering the fact that the Chiefs turned the ball over 3 times, and they still won. Kelsey wasn't very effective. Their 2 number 1 receivers were Sky Moore and some guy I'd never heard of before. Chris Jones did play a pretty big role, had a sack and a half in his first game back from his holdout. And Christian Kirk ended up with over 100 receiving yards. Calvin Ridley was essentially non-existent the entire game. From an offense, honestly, in Jacksonville, that I kind of expected more. I did not expect this game to be a 26-point total game. I honestly expected it to be more of a Seahawks-Lions type of score. But does this game to you instill more confidence in the Chiefs to figure it out, or does it instill more reservations in the Jaguars' offense moving forward?
Neither. I think the Jags are going to be just fine, and I hate the Chiefs. Never going to back them. So I just think Zay Jones needs to learn how to wear a size-less shoe because he had 2 touchdown catches that he didn't get his second foot in by like that much. So I think that was ultimately the biggest difference in that game from it being a shootout. If he catches those 2, the Chiefs, Andy Reid, he's going to start being more aggressive with the play calling, and then he'll go score. And then the Jags would have more confidence if he got those 2 feet in. So, yeah, just issues from the Jags, and I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I think this was just 2 even teams going at it, and this is the result. It was a low-scoring game, and I feel like this will be another matchup in the playoffs. I feel like they'll go for the 2nd straight year. And I feel like my prediction right now would be the Jags would take that one. But yeah, I think they're both 2 solid teams, and this was the result: a low-scoring game where nobody really shined.
All right. So another close game. Falcons win at home 25-24 against Green Bay. So a stat that I'd heard earlier this week, 3/4 of the teams last week that won ran more attempts than their opponent. So they had more rushing attempts than their opposition, and they won. 75% of teams in the league won last week doing that. Falcons really took this to heart. I don't know if you've looked at the statistics. Packers ran 21 total rushing attempts. The Falcons ran 45. Ritter was average as shit, like normal. Bijan averaged 6.5 yards per carry on 19 attempts. That's pretty freaking awesome. Someone like I said earlier, who was it? Oh, yeah. It was Gus Edwards, averaged 6 yards a carry. He did that on 10 carries. Bijan did this on 19. Jordan Love had 3 touchdowns. Can't knock him for that. Without Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs was essentially non-existent. So, He did it to a lot of people that people wouldn't have expected to score in this game. Number one receiver only had 40 yards. So really just kind of made it work. 446 total yards of offense for the Falcons. They almost had as many rushing yards as they did passing yards. It was about 20 yards different. And if you really take Young Wei Koo out of this game, Falcons probably lose. He hit 3 late field goals to put them up and win this game. So my question here is actually kind of different. It's not really more about the game, but it's more about a certain player. Kyle Pitts finished with 2 receptions for 15 yards. Do you consider him a bust, or do you think he could succeed in a scheme that throws the ball more? For example, someone like Hunter Henry over in New England, who's averaging a lot of points right now because he's a vertical tight end in the scheme and he's able to really get open. Because you've seen other tight ends like George Kittle kind of be in a similar boat in Kyle Shanahan's offense where they run the ball almost as much as the Falcons do. So
I'm going to answer this in a fantasy perspective because that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. If you're in redraft leagues, so you're just your standard leagues, I'm trading him for whatever you can get. Sorry, Chase. Whatever you can get, I'm taking it. But if you play in dynasty leagues, I would buy low in every single dynasty league you're in because I do think Kyle Pitts can and will be good on a different team. I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Falcons. I just think that they used the 4th overall pick on Kyle Pitts and then completely forgot that they used the 4th overall pick on Kyle Pitts because they don't use him. I've seen clips on TikTok of him breaking corners' ankles, and he's just not getting the ball. So I don't know if it's play calling. I don't know if it's Desmond Ridder or what, but they're just not using him correctly. And if I'm in a dynasty league, that's the kind of league that I would try to trade for him and for years down the road whenever he's on a different team.
He has elite talent. We can all agree to that. Just everything about him screams world class tight end. But he doesn't have a quarterback. That's the issue. Give him and Drake London a quarterback, and this conversation could be totally different. So, I don't think he'll stay with the Falcons. I feel like he should prioritize a team that has a competent quarterback, so he can actually shine and get a second contract somewhere else for a ton of money. But I drafted him because he has all these elite traits, and I was hoping maybe he would do something. But overall, it's been sad every Sunday watching him get no touches. So,
all right, moving on to a pretty disappointing game here. Very close game as well. Titans win at home 27-24 over the Chargers. Back and forth shootout, really. Chargers threw for a ton of yards to Keenan Allen specifically, but when it mattered, Titans and Nick Folk got to celebrate on Broadway with an overtime field goal to seal the game. No turnovers for either team, so that's a positive. It was a back and forth game, but if you look at this stat sheet and you tell me, hey, why I'm looking for a game plan on how to beat the Titans. As a Saints fan, we beat them last week. You hold Derrick Henry for under 100 yards. Yes, he did score a touchdown. Tannehill throws one and rushes one in. So they score 21 points, and Henry's under 100 yards. 90% of teams win that game, especially with the caliber of talent on the Chargers roster. So with that being said, a game that honestly I think most of the nation thought that the Chargers would win, but they didn't. They underperformed late in the game. Is Brandon Staley officially on the hot seat yet?
From what I've heard and seen, I don't think he is, but he 100% should be. And I don't know why, but the Chargers love him, and I've been kind of saying since they hired him, just because I hate him. But he's an idiot, just to put it bluntly. He goes for it so unnecessarily. He doesn't know he has all these weapons, but it feels like each specific game, only like 1, maybe 2 are clicking. They're not all clicking in the same game. He doesn't know how to keep everybody in the game plan. And my thing that I want to say a little separate is I just kind of what we said last week and what me and Chase kind of been saying for a year. At what point do this goes for the national media? This goes for our friends. At what point do they see like me and Chase like when does Justin Herbert not get all these excuses? Because he continues to just I don't care about the stats. Like he can do that all day long. But the Titans are a team that with that much talent on the Chargers, if you're supposed to be this elite quarterback, you win that game. And it just keeps coming up year after year. He doesn't win these games. So I just want to know at what point do the excuses stop?
What was the original question? Because Kendall got me distracted there.
Brandon Staley, is he on the hot seat or not?
He should be. That's my answer. But I'm also want to go on a separate note on this game. Derrick Henry, in my opinion, is cooked. I don't know how the Titans won this game. Averaging 3.2 yards per carry is awful, and especially coming from Derrick Henry. I feel like this game says a lot more about the Chargers than it does the Titans. I feel like the Chargers are not a very good team, and I feel like this season, if it continues to go down the path that is, this offseason, this team could like explode, and pieces will be gone, and this Chargers team will not look the same next year as it does this year.
All right. Keeping it with some LA teams, we had San Francisco travel to LA to play the Rams, and they went 30-23. I don't know if y'all saw this, but if you looked at any pictures of the stadium, it was red everywhere. There were no Rams fans in sight. Brock Purdy managed the game, didn't turn the ball over. Christian McCaffrey played well. The defense forced 2 turnovers. Shocker. They did what they did. Real shocker in this game is Puka Nacua, again, shocking the world with his performance. Now holds the record for rookie receptions in the first 2 games of a career. And then Kyron Williams got in the end zone again this week. Rams kept it close. 49ers pulled away late. Got a kind of funny question here for you guys. With Brett Maher hitting a last-second field goal to push the spread line for this game, do you realistically think McVay had zero idea, or do you think he was just trying to fuck everybody over?
I don't think he had an idea, to be honest. I know it would be funny if that was his goal, was to just mess everybody's bets up. But Sean McVay is the definition of an ultimate competitor. And I know exactly what he was thinking. He was thinking he's down 10 points and you got to have a touchdown and field goal. I think there's 4 or 5 seconds on the clock. They're going to try to do a quick snap, kick it as quick as you can. Hopefully there's a second left on the clock. Recover an onside kick and throw a Hail Mary. I think that's what he was trying to ultimately do. Was he was still, even being down 10 with 4 or 5 seconds left, he was still trying to win because that's who Sean McVay is.
I can't answer for him, but I can answer for me. If I was in his shoes, I'd say fuck that spread and fuck everybody who bet on this game. And so that's my answer. I do think he tried to get a quick kickoff. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense because there was only 4 seconds left. So I don't know, but I don't think he did. But I can answer for myself. I would definitely look at the score. See, remember the spread was 7. Fuck over everybody's bets. Get your money back.
All right.
That also one more thing. It also helps for if the Rams are in playoff contention. That also helps their tiebreaker because they scored 3 more points.
It does.
There you go. All right. Giants Cardinals. Giants win 31-28. The first half looked like the same Giants that played the Dallas Cowboys last week were there. They're down 20-0. Something happened at halftime. A lot of people thought Brian Dable took over the play calling. He did not. He came out and actually said that he did not. But something did change. They go on a 31-7 run to win this game 31-28. Saquon did sustain an ankle injury, so it kind of gave a bittersweet end to like this huge comeback win. It's kind of hard to celebrate coming back from 20 down when your star player gets hurt in the process. But I will say this. Who are you more impressed with coming out of this game? Josh Dobbs or second half Daniel Jones?
To that specific question, Daniel Jones, but I think the game as a whole, I'll still take the negative route on the Giants. I still think they suck. I just think what ultimately happened in this game is the Cardinals ran out of gas and they ran out of momentum, and so the Giants just kept getting the ball and they rode their momentum that they got. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I would. First off, fuck that Giants team. Fuck Daniel Jones. But I will say this: Josh Dobbs played very good considering the circumstances. I mean, his final stat line was 21 for 31 for 228 yards and a touchdown with 0 picks, if I'm not mistaken. And so,
Second game in a row, he hasn't turned the ball over.
yeah, I mean, he's doing what he can. James Conner had 23 for 106, so he's doing what he can. But ultimately, this game falls on Jonathan Gannon's lap, and he blows a fourth quarter lead in Arizona. So back-to-back games. Shame.
All right. So moving on, we'll go ahead and talk about the Jets and Cowboys game. 30-10 Cowboys. This game really was highlighted on the fact that Zach Wilson, was kind of seeing what he was going to be able to do with Aaron being out. He threw 3 picks. He's got 4 on the year now. A lot of people are freaking out saying, hey, let's go sign Flacco. Let's go sign Wentz. Let's go sign somebody. But I think a lot of people that really are aware and aren't trying to get clicks realize that Zach Wilson is the quarterback of this team for the rest of the year, at least for the next 4 to 5 weeks. If you bring someone in this week, I wouldn't be thinking about making a change for another 5 weeks because I'm not going to go start a veteran quarterback that hasn't learned the offense over Zach Wilson. Because you need to either this year is where you really need to figure out if you're willing to let him sit and develop for another 2 years and try it again, or if you've seen enough is enough and you try to deal him for something and get something for him, kind of like what the 49ers did with Trey Lance, and hope that Aaron Rodgers is the same and comes back. Cowboys defense, again, looked great. You look at the scoring overview of this game, it was never really close. Anytime the Jets scored, they would come right back and score. So it was 7-10 at one point, and went 7-18, 10-18, and then the Jets didn't score in the entire second half. So if you go a whole half without scoring, you're not going to win many football games that way. So I'd say my question to you is more on the Jets side. If you were the general manager in New York and you had to pick a quarterback, let's say any free agent quarterback or any backup quarterback, let's say you were able to go out and trade for any backup quarterback in the league, what quarterback do you think it would take for you personally to be confident in this team going forward to make the playoffs?
Gardner Minshew. And because he can throw the ball, and he's nowhere near as turnover prone as Zach Wilson is, and that's all the Jets really need is a game manager.
Yeah, I was going to say Gardner Minshew as well. And as soon as you said, I try to change my answer to something else so we're not completely stale. But yeah, I feel like Gardner Minshew is probably the best backup quarterback in the league. Maybe.
Well, he's definitely one. He's definitely one of them.
Because I'm not taking Carson Wentz. I'm not taking Nick Foles was thrown out there, and that's not happening either.
I've seen Matt Ryan thrown out there. I wouldn't.
No.
Cooper Rush is also one of the top backups in the league.
Yeah, fuck him. Ideally, I would say go after Kirk Cousins. I know that's been like the popular, I guess, pick.
Who the fuck's gonna throw the ball in Minnesota then?
I mean,
you're just chalking your whole season.
If you get near the deadline, the Vikings still haven't picked it up. Well, why wouldn't you entertain it? Kirk's already 35 years old.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that's in our group, the football group, about how he's 35.
I think so.
I didn't realize he was 35. I thought he was like 30.
I didn't either. I had to look it up once you sent it in there. Yeah, he's 35 years old.
Because Amazon. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Because Amazon posted like that fake like headline article thing as in the pregame, and it said something about Kirk is 35, and I was like, no shot, he's 35, because I feel like he hasn't been on the Vikings forever, but I guess he has.
The thing that's crazy to me is the fact that Taysom Hill's only 2 years younger than Kirk Cousins. Man's 33.
I think Taysom started late, didn't he? He got drafted.
He got drafted at 28. Yeah, because he's Mormon.
And so I actually have a question. We'll go with Wyatt and Kendall. So I know that Aaron Rodgers said that he is like going to do like this new like alternative treatment for his Achilles, and there's talk that he makes it back, like in the playoffs, like in that time. Why do you think that there's a chance, or do you think that's just bullshit?
Okay, so I think it's bullshit for two reasons. Bullshit reason number one, if I'm Joe Douglas in that ownership group, there's no fucking way he's coming back until the doctor that performed that surgery tells me he's ready to come back. Because the amount of capital you put into him, and he's already 39, so you really need him to be back at 100%. I'm not rolling up fucking Aaron Rodgers on one leg in a playoff game, as much as how good as he is. Because the bullshit reason number two is there's no way the fucking Jets are going to be in playoff contention if they keep playing how they're playing. And if Zach Wilson is good enough to get them to the playoffs, why the fuck would you bring Aaron Rodgers back? Because that would mean Zach Wilson ascended drastically. You know, he probably got 30 to 40% better. So at that point, it's like just let him rock. So yeah, I know that's bullshit.
I think Aaron Rodgers wants to, but I agree. I don't believe that. I don't believe there's any way you can come back. I mean, we still got a while before the playoffs, obviously, but you torn Achilles, that takes a long time. There ain't no
You don't
way
think
you can
Kobe
come
Bryant
back.
would have done that shit? You know what I mean?
I know. Like, if Kobe wouldn't do it, then why would Aaron Rodgers, basically? And a way more contact sport. So yeah, no, I don't see a way.
Yeah, and to kind of finish this conversation off, Wyatt's point about they're not making the playoffs. Here is the Jets' schedule, pretty much: Patriots, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles, Giants. Got the Chargers, the Raiders, Bills, Dolphins, Falcons, Texans, Dolphins, Commanders, Browns, Patriots. I'm pretty sure I said Jets somewhere along the lines there.
I don't know if this team can win 6 games with that schedule.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule.
I counted 8 that I think they can win whenever you're saying it. So 8, 9.
I don't think that. Say them again. 1 to 1.
All right,
1 by 1.
They already have one.
Patriots.
Yeah. I don't think they're beating Bill.
They got the Chiefs.
They're not beating Kansas City.
They got the Broncos.
That game's close. I'd give you a win there.
They have the Eagles.
They're not winning that fucking game.
They have the Giants.
That's a toss up.
They have the Chargers.
Toss up.
They have the Raiders.
They're not winning that game.
Oh, okay. You gave it to them. Okay. Okay.
I'll take it away. I'll take it away from
All
them.
right. You got the Bills.
They're not winning that fucking game.
The Dolphins.
Not a shot.
Falcons.
No. Not a fucking chance. That secondary's great. That front seven's not. Bijan runs for 200 fucking yards.
I don't think the Falcons scored 13 points on the Jets defense.
On the ground. That's the thing, though. They don't have to pass. They just run the fucking ball 40 times.
Well,
Zach Wilson's going to give them field position anyway. That's the thing. That's the thing with this. It's not how good the Jets defense is. I don't give a fuck how good they are. That offense has to score points.
I don't care that the Falcons are 2-0.
Texans.
That's a win.
Dolphins again.
That's a loss.
Commanders.
That's a loss.
The Browns.
Iffy.
That's iffy too.
And the Patriots.
I think they get swept by the Bills.
That was my 8.
But you're not. It's not like a confident 8 for you. It's like
no.
They have a shot.
Best case scenario.
Yeah.
I think best case scenario is 9.
And
I'll just go ahead and say it.
No, that won't be enough.
If the line's 7.5, I'll take the under.
Oh well. Okay. All right. Well, that's the Jets talk for the week.
All right. So moving on a little bit further into the day, we had the Commanders and Broncos. Kendall, you watched this game. I did not. If you want to run us through this one, go right ahead.
Yeah. So the Broncos came out firing on all cylinders. I forget how much they went up. I'll get it here in a second. They went up at one point 21-3.
Yep.
So they came out firing, and then I don't know exactly what happened, but it's just a switch flipped and everything went to the Commanders. And then they came all the way back. They made it 35-24 at one point. So they scored 30 after the Broncos went up 21-3, the Commanders outscored them 32-3.
Yeah.
And the Commanders just took control of this game. And it was very anticlimactic if anybody watched, because the Broncos got the ball and they, on their last drive, they were looking horrible. It was ugly. It was nonchalant. And then they got to about the 40-yard line and just threw up a prayer. Obviously, it's what teams are do. It got tipped around by Sutton, tipped around by a Commanders defender into the hands of the Broncos as they scored a Hail Mary, but they still needed a 2-point conversion. And on a controversial no call, no PI call, it was incomplete. But here's why I'm okay.
Got a wide open running lane.
Here's why I'm okay with the no PI call. Russell Wilson shouldn't have thrown that ball in the first place, because if you watch the replay, it was crossers, it was a mesh, and Jerry Jeudy's running wide open on the left side. He completely missed him. He's wide open. The defender's 5 yards behind him. It would have easily set up overtime. So that's on Russell Wilson, and it's their fault.
I don't know if you saw it either, too. They saw a replay. They're saying the defenders were so far back, there was actually a wide open rushing lane for him to just take off. And none of the defenders would have been able to get there in time just because of the depth of which they were playing. Because they were trying to defend the pass.
I didn't see that. They were just showing the replays after the incompletion of Jerry Jeudy just running, calling for the ball because he was wide open.
I'm about to look at that. I just watched it, and I saw the wide open lane. Because as soon as he passes it, the left side just completely opens up. Let me find Jerry Jeudy real quick.
He I think he's at the top of the screen. The defender got hung up for a minute, and Jerry Jeudy is running wide open on the left side.
Yeah, so he could have ran to the left side and had a blocker in Jerry Jeudy. They're playing man, so they might not have been looking for him to run the ball at all. But he also had Jerry Jeudy wide open. So terrible.
Broncos, they deserve to lose that game after blowing that lead anyway.
Yep.
All right, moving on to Sunday night. We'll go back to our two games, Kendall. 24-17, Dolphins take a win in Foxborough. It was kind of muggy. It rained during that game, didn't it? A little bit. I thought it was kind of muggy outside because I know the hurricane was really close by.
To be honest, I fell asleep.
Too.
But
Tua was 21 for 30, so he's accurate like always. You're going to expect accuracy from Tua. Raheem Mostert was really the star of this game. 18 carries, 121 yards with 2 touchdowns, 6.7 yards per carry. I don't think a lot of fans realize how valuable that is to an offense. Because look at someone like Bryce Young, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the Saints game, but when you're sitting in second and long, third and long, it is so much harder to be successful on offense when you can turn around and be second and 6, second and 4, third and short. Like DeAndre Swift with the Eagles, like being able to get those first down carries and they go 6 to 8 yards is huge to any team. And the Dolphins being as so good as they are in the passing side of it, they're able to do just as well on the running side. Because Bill did seem to attack Jalen and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek had a touchdown, but was held to 40 yards. Waddle had 86. Hill has never received over 100 yards against Bill Belichick. Actually put that in the group chat the other night of did we think he was going to go over. I thought he would. He did not. On the flip side, on the Patriots end, Mack threw the ball 42 times, which is kind of a surprising with how the Patriots usually play. They usually like to run the ball a lot. Stevenson actually got in the end zone. It wasn't poached by Elliott, so that's always great. But this game was just really never close. If you look at the overview, you're going they went up 10, and then they scored a field goal, and then they went up 17-3. Then it was 17-10, 24-10, and then they scored a touchdown with like 5 minutes left, and Miami was able to run out the clock. Another reason why those 6 yards per carry are so important when you get into your 4-minute offense and you're trying to kill the clock, you need those yards from your running back. So 389 total yards for the Dolphins, and they pick up the win. Do you guys think, in all honesty, this is the best offense in the AFC right now?
Right now, I mean, I feel like you have to say yes. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I know it's only two guys, but it feels like they're just everywhere on the field at once because that's very, very, very fast wide receiver duo, probably the fastest wide receiver duo the NFL's ever seen. So those two guys alone just make it feel like the Dolphins have a lot more people on offense than they really do.
Until December. That's my
Till
answer.
December. Yeah. Right now, yes. Later in
When
the
it
year,
cools down.
when it gets cold outside and playoff time, no.
All right. We will now talk about the second Monday night game, Browns Steelers. I don't have much to say about this game other than the Chubb hit. If you did see it, obviously it was pretty bad. Most people's knees bend backwards, his bent to the right. Personally, I think that's every ligament gone. I think that's kneecap dislocated, which is really bad. Possibly even broke, like on the upper part of like his tibia, potentially too. But they haven't really came out with all the injury list. He had a similar injury in college at Georgia, and he was able to come back from that. But that was when he was 20 years old, not when he's 28 years old, 27 years old. Kendall, got that right. Give you credit there. Other than that, it sucks even worse. They weren't able to win it for him after it happened. At the time of the injury, I think they were up. No, they were down 4, but they were just about to score. I think they were in the red zone, right? And they ended up scoring right after. Deshaun Watson looked terrible. He threw for a little over 50%. 235 yards on 40 passing attempts is honestly fucking awful for a quarterback who's making over $250 million guaranteed. So I saw something on TikTok today, and this will be my question. As of right now, week 2 of the 2023 season, whose contract is worse? Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson has $69 million left guaranteed. Deshaun has, I think it's like 85 to 90 million guaranteed still. So the cap hit is larger for Deshaun, obviously, on this team than it is for Russell Wilson. So that being said, after seeing this game, and obviously we just talked about Denver, contract is worse.
I'd say Russell Wilson. I think there's still a chance that Deshaun could improve. I don't think he'll ever get back to what he was, but I think he could improve. But I think Russell Wilson's cooked. He looks slow. He looks like he goes through his reads much slower. He checks the ball down much more. Yeah, I'd say Russell Wilson. I don't think there's any hope for him.
I'm going to answer this question, then I have a follow-up question for you guys. The answer to this question for me is they're both equally bad because Russ's last year in Seattle was terrible, and I feel like if you actually watched, you could tell the regression was coming because it already started in Seattle, and so to hand him, this lucrative contract was a terrible start. However, on the flip side, Deshaun Watson should have never got a contract to begin with, like especially that. He didn't play for a year, and plus with all the legal troubles he had, you were gambling on it to begin with, and it was dumb. You should have. I don't know if I want to be that person and say he should have been in the league, but it wasn't a smart contract at all. So they're both equally terrible in their own ways. The question I have is, I know there's a lot of talk on X if Minkah Fitzpatrick purposely tried to hurt Chubb there. I know from the angle it looked like he went straight for the knees, but the question I guess is, was it just football, or do you think he had some different intentions?
All right. So I listened to them talk about this on McAfee today. I agree with it a lot, and it makes really good sense what they talked about. So it's two things. One, if you look at players that are deemed dirty Most of the time they don't last in the league very long. Look at someone like Vontez Burfict, who is no longer in the league after making some pretty shitty hits. Fucked up Antonio Brown forever. And just they don't last because they don't play smart. If you're playing that reckless, uh, think of people like not that saying Jonathan Abram's a dirty player, but Jonathan Abram always goes for the big hit, and because of that, he struggles. And he's struggling to make NFL teams right now. Minka Fitzpatrick's one of the best safeties in the NFL, and he's been in the league for so long. I don't think for him he has any. There is no reason for him to want to do that. There's no. What does he gain from it? He stops Chubb. He's one of the highest paid safeties in the league. At the end of the day, yes, he wants to compete, but you don't just go out and hurt another man because of that. Also, I think this is partially on the NFL. This is something that you might end up seeing more of. You can't hit high anymore. You got to hit in that strike zone. And when the play breaks down and you're trying to hit them and try to lay on some punishment on the running back, which is football, you're having to hit lower and lower now. And it's only going to happen more and more the lower they're supposed to hit. So I think the NFL is more to blame than Minka is. I know they're trying to protect the head and stuff, but at the same time, you're going to have a lot more knee and shin and foot injuries just with a slight miss up. I think honestly Minka didn't mean to hit him that low, and he pulled in low and he got him. But that's just my take.
Yeah, I don't think there was any malicious intents. I don't think he did it on purpose. I just think Nick Chubb was coming downhill, and he's a big ass dude at full speed, much bigger than Minka, and I just think Minka didn't want to be put on a highlight tape and get ran over. So he
There's
went low.
actually
He went low because Chubb's a big dude, and that's how you stop big dudes is you take out their base.
actually go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, I was just gonna say I don't think he meant any harm by it.
I was gonna say that's a really good point because they were talking about today, like there are actually highlight tapes of Minka trying to hit Chubb high and getting absolutely fucking obliterated.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
I can think of one off the top of my head from previous years where he just completely ran Minka over.
so it's kind of like fool me once, shame on you.
I think the obvious fix here is to put knee braces on and have everybody run like Forrest Gump did. No bending the knees at all, just straight leg.
Look, that's terrible. You just gotta have people's knees go this way.
Just straight legging it the whole way. It'll be
Let's
bad.
just put everybody in bubble wrap and just hope for the best.
But I think that after listening to like a lot of NFL players' podcasts, I do believe like the NFL is like a brotherhood, and that nobody tries to actually hurt somebody. Especially if there isn't like a past history there. I know like that Josh Norman Odell thing couple years ago, they wanted to kill each other, but typically,
Or unless a bounty's involved.
that too. But I don't think anybody tries to hurt anybody. That's just the way it is.
All right, Kendall, we'll talk about your game first. 38-10 Bills. Josh Allen kind of slammed his dick down on the table, not gonna lie. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, it's gonna be quicker than last week. Our offense looked great first drive. We went right down the field and scored and punched them in the mouth. And yeah, that was the last thing we heard out of the Raiders offense Sunday. As we managed to score 3 points the rest of the game. If there's one thing I could say for the offense, they weren't on the field a whole lot, so they weren't able to get into a rhythm because the Bills, we were playing soft cover 3 the whole game. We weren't letting anybody get behind us. So Josh Allen learned his lesson from last week. He wasn't forcing nothing at all. And he was just dinking and dunking, first, second, third down, get a first, second, third, get a first, second, third, get a first. So it was long drives. To start the third quarter, they actually took 11 or 12 minutes of the third quarter on one drive. We didn't touch the ball in the second half till 3 minutes left. So our offense just never was able to get into a rhythm. And the biggest takeaway I have is I'm going to go a different route other than defense because that's the easiest thing you could say with the Raiders. Our run blocking has got to get better.
He had negative 2 yards.
It's terrible. I know he may be rusty from not having training camp, but he has nowhere to go. As soon as he gets the handoff, there's 3 people in his face, and he can't make them all miss.
-2 yards. That is fucking ridiculous. He ran for 1,600 yards last year.
Yep.
We'll trade you for
And-
Colton Miller, though.
I
For
didn't know
real,
he had
for real.
-2 yards. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
that today. Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah. They stacked the box, and we couldn't block it. We had no answer. So there's that.
Time of possession, also to further in on your point, the Bills had 40 minutes to the Raiders 19 minutes and 56 seconds.
Yeah,
So
they had a slightly over double the longer time with the ball.
they essentially had the ball for
3
a
quarters.
half. Yeah.
Wow. What a game by Josh Allen. He only threw 6 incompletions too.
Yeah.
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 6 incompletions, no picks.
He was. We were running cover 3 all game. He was taking what we were giving.
That's
him.
Josh Allen. That is what Josh Allen can be.
James Cook had a hell of a game. 17 for 123 for 7.2 a carry.
I still think Josh Allen's slightly overrated. I just want to throw that out.
Gabe Davis 6 for 92 with a tutty. Man,
But anytime the Bills match up with the Chiefs, I guarantee you I'll be rooting for Josh Allen.
Well, all right. Moving into the last game, we have to recap before we get into our power rankings going into week 3. Saints played Panthers in Carolina and won 2017. I put an asterisk next to 17. Really, it was 20-10 up until the very last part of the game where they scored a little garbage time touchdown. Carolina, actually, the stadium was quite loud. I was actually kind of impressed. Doesn't tend to usually be that way. Ultimately, the offense was underwhelming again for the second straight week. There were glimpses that I saw that were better. We ran the ball a lot better than we did in week 1. But Derek had a terrible interception. Looked terrible. But I will say I can see it. Like, it's right there. It is honestly right there. The miscommunication, there's so many choice routes in this offense that people fail to realize. And the amount of plays that are being called at once, like, you're talking 3 plays, and Michael Thomas might have choice routes on 2 of those 3 plays. So it's like there's so many mental gymnastics going on pre-snap that it's going to take this team a little bit longer than normal to get going. But man, when they get going, this offense can be really good. Rashid Shaheed looked great. Olave looked great. Thomas played well. Taysom Hill had a great game, 9 carries for 75 yards, which was really necessary because Jamal Williams is now out for a couple weeks. And
Not
with him
a
out,
Hall of Famer.
whatever. I don't care. Jamal Williams being out for the next couple weeks. Now the only running backs on the roster that are eligible to play in Green Bay is Kendre Miller, who has not played yet because of injury, and Tony Jones Jr., who actually looked pretty solid. And then they had Taysom Hill run out of the Wildcat a couple times. I hope we pick up somebody. Pick up Leonard Fournette, man. He's an LSU guy. Obviously played for Tampa Bay for a long time. Played in Jacksonville. But we just need a body. We're not going to get Kareem Hunt. He's going to Cleveland. But we just need someone because we honestly are lacking depth because there's a lot of speculation on whether Kendre will play next week. And that leaves Tony Jones, who I do not trust against Green Bay. That was great that he played that well. Good for him. He's a practice squad guy most of his career. And Taysom. And yes, every team knows that when Taysom comes in the game, he's going to run the ball 98% of the time. But when there's only one running back on the roster, it makes it even more apparent. So defense looked great. We made Bryce Young look like an absolute bum. He's overrated as of now. Hopefully if you're a Carolina fan, it gets better. But we made him look like dog shit for 4 quarters. And we completely made Miles Sanders irrelevant.
Good.
He averaged less than 3 yards a carry. So
Fuck him.
So I will say that I'm proud of my team for grinding out 2 weeks in a row now where we have not played our best football and still won. And we've played arguably some of the worst football we'll probably play all year, and we still won. So I'm hoping we come into Green Bay and we play with a lot of fire and we play a lot better and we win another one. So
My biggest question is for you, Wyatt. Does Taysom Hill practice throwing?
Yes.
Okay, well, the Saints need to let him if they're going to have him come in that often. He needs to.
I've
He
been
needs to.
saying it for 3 years.
He just needs to throw more often, even if it's just like a 2 or 3 yard out. Just show that you're willing to throw the ball, and
Well,
that'll help that element of the running game that he has open up even more.
I agree. Every one of his plays are kind of like an RPO. So he doesn't have a whole lot of time to decide. He usually gets like one read or he has to take off. I hate when he comes in on third down because every defense in the NFL knows he's running the fucking ball if it's third and short, and we still do it. Yes, it works because Adam Prentice at fullback is really solid and he just is able to give him a hole. And Taysom Hill is extremely athletic and he's just able to push through the line. But again, it's going to kick it all every year. He gets us 2 or 3 times a year where we need a really big play and we put Taysom Hill in and they know exactly what's coming and it bites us in the ass. At the same time, there's 1 or 2 plays a year where they do let him throw and he throws for like a 65-yard touchdown. So Rashid Shaheed had one last year. So it's kind of like, yes, he's technically the third string quarterback. Let him throw the ball.
I'm going to say this real quick. A lot of Bryce Young slander on this particular pod. I don't think he's terrible. I think I feel bad for him because if you watch the game and like you watch the cameras when they get put on him, especially like starting the second half, you can tell that it's just like it's not sitting right with him, and like he is mentally fried. I feel like there was a ton of expectations going into the year, and probably unfair expectations, and you could see whenever he was a shotgun, I believe, in the fourth quarter, and he was just lined up over the guard, and the Miles Sanders was like, "Hey, buddy, like, you're not here. You're not there yet. Like, slide over a little bit." And I feel bad for him because I don't know if you guys have ever played a sport and like you had a bad game and you know that you played bad and like you feel like the whole world's just staring at you and like watching you and like that guy sucks, you know, and you just have like that lost look and you get in your own head. Maybe it's just me, but I feel bad for him, man. I hope he does good. I hope he gets back on track, but I also feel like this Panthers team isn't like the best team to, you know, have success with a rookie quarterback.
I don't understand why they booed him, to be honest. We're one of the best defenses in the NFL. He was going to have a rough game. I don't know why Carolina fans thought otherwise. He's a rookie. They actually said that Derek was on the sideline and he heard the boos and he got like pissed off. And he was like, he told, I think it was Jameis, like, they don't understand how hard this shit is. Was it like what his quote was? He didn't say shit because, it's Derek Carr, but he's like, they don't understand how hard this is. And Frank Reich offensively is he's no like wing T coordinator. He's not just throwing up some, old school shit. So I feel for him in that regard too. I don't know why they would boo him. Who do you want in? Who's going to go in the game? Fucking Andy Dalton?
I will say, speaking of that, great transition. I think it's dumb that they take out Bryce Young and put Andy Dalton in like third and short. That is so stupid. I
disagree.
Stupid.
He's so small, dude. Like Andy, they could afford Andy to get crushed in the pile if they go for a sneak. You lose Bryce, it's fucking over.
Yeah, but don't pull like that. Like, that's basically saying, "Hey, you're too small, kid. Get out of there." Like, let the grown men do that. Like, don't do that. Just fucking do a touch push. Get the biggest guy you have behind him and just push him forward.
Let Hayden Hurst do it. Put Hayden Hurst there. If you put Andy Dalton in to run a quarterback sneak, everybody knows it's coming anyway. If that's all he's there to do. So if you put Hayden Hurst there, it's the same situation. Everybody knows he's just going to get it and run a quarterback sneak.
Yeah, and line up Bryce at wide receiver.
Exactly.
Golly, could you imagine if he tried to catch a ball in open space? They would kill him.
We did it a few times with Foster. Like, there was a few times that we put Derek at wide receiver and we let Foster Moreau run a sneak. Or when we had Mariota, Derek Carr would be at wide receiver and Mariota would do it.
It's got to be weird for Carr coming out 12 to 14 times a game now to let Taysom play. Like, we did the same thing with Brees, and it's like, why the fuck is Drew Brees not in the game right now? Um, but it's got to be weird for Carr being, hey, we're going to pull you on second and long. We're going to let Taysom run the ball here. But all right, enough Saints talk. Let's get into our power rankings here. Obviously, every week we do our power rankings, and we'll just go the better conference first. So let's go with the NFC.
NFC. Oh,
What?
man.
Yeah, NFC on top, baby, always.
I always go first, but all right, here we go. I'm gonna burn through this one rather quickly because there's not much to say. 16, I got the Cardinals. I mean, you blow a 28-point lead. You deserve to be at the bottom. The Bears, because the Bears stink, and I'm glad that Logan and Jake are coming around to it, so I can join it on the Bears stink train. But the Panthers at 14, the Vikings at 13. The Vikings shouldn't be 0-2 because they are a decent team in my opinion, but they lost the first 2 games, so they have to be pretty low. 12 Giants, 11 Rams, 10 Lions. I feel like the Lions took the biggest drop, but that's because the Seahawks beat them. Can't put them there. I feel like the Packers are a decent team. They're at 8. Falcons at 7. They're undefeated. Bucks are also undefeated, so they're 6. Saints cracked the top 5. Commanders at 4. I don't know why I put the Commanders at 4, but I did. 3 Cowboys, 2 49ers, 1 Eagles. As I've said the past 3 weeks now, you can put almost the bottom half in anywhere you want, and it'd be okay. Besides the Cardinals, they're last.
Really, all last year too.
Yeah. So, third, like I said earlier in the pod, there's 3 elite teams in the NFC. Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys. I started the year with the Eagles in first. So until they lose, if they ever lose, they will stay number 1. But yeah, like I said, 4 through 16 can play, and you don't know who's going to win. It could go any way, any which way, and that'll be the game. But these top 3 teams are definitely a solid trio.
All right, Kendall. AFC time.
All right, yeah, clearly the better conference. Anyway, I'll burn through this pretty quick too. 16 Broncos, just like Chase with the Cardinals, you blow a big lead, you deserve to be last. So Broncos are last. Move the Texans right up above them. I just like what I see from the Texans slightly more than the Broncos. The Broncos are ass. 14 Patriots, 13 Chargers. They suck. I'm tired of everybody saying that they're good. 12 Colts, 11 Raiders, 10 Titans, 9 Bengals. I know they're 0-2, but I just still can't find myself to not have them in the top 10 power rankings of the AFC. They're one of the bigger. Anyway, next 8 Browns, 7 Steelers, 6 Jets, 5 Bills, 4 Jags, 3 Chiefs, 2 Ravens, 1 Dolphins.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and go because my phone's on 1% and I don't want it to die. I'm going to start from the top and move down because my top didn't really move. Number 1, I got the 49ers again this week. Number 2, I got the Eagles again this week. Number 3, I got the Chiefs again this week. Number 4, I got the Cowboys again this week. Those all say the same. Number 5, last week I had the Dolphins. This week I have the Bills. Number 6, last week I had the Chargers. This week I have the Dolphins. I personally like the Bills roster more. I think they're interchangeable, but I had the Bills ahead, even though they did lose week 1. Number 7, last week I had the Bills. This week I have the Jags there. Number 8, I had the Jags there last week. Number 8, this week I got the Ravens. Number 9, last week I had the Ravens. Number 9, this week I have the Chargers. And number 10 last week I had the Bengals. And number 10 this week, I have the Atlanta Falcons.
I have one major question for you, Wyatt. What is it going to take for the Chargers not to be in the top 10?
If they lose again this week, they'll be out of the top 10. It's the same logic that the Bengals were at last week. Bengals lost last week. They moved out. The big thing for me was, and I'll tell you my logic here, my number 10 spot, I almost put the Chargers at 10 and the Falcons at 9. The Chargers are not the Chargers. The Falcons, Bucks, Commanders, and Packers were all on my like fringe of going in the top 10. But I feel like if the Chargers played any of those teams, I would personally pick the Chargers to win those games. So I kept them in one more week. If they lose again this week, they'll be out of the top 10. So it's one of those things where I'm going to have to start seeing them win now. But
So the Bengals weren't in yours, correct?
correct.
So what makes the Chargers in yours, not the Bengals?
Honestly, I think the Chargers, they've played two close games. They've been in 2 shootouts. I like their offense. They just haven't clutched in games. The Bengals have looked atrocious. If the Bengals won this week, they might sneak in at 10. If the Chargers lose, they're staying. They're out of the top 10, and another team's going to come in, and the Falcons are probably going to move up if they win this week. If the Chargers win, there's a very good shot they could still move down to 10 if it's not impressive. So
I guess my only thing is if the Bengals and Chargers are both 0-2, yet the Bengals roster together has proved way more than the Chargers have proved. So if they're 0-2,
that is
then
fair. But if the Chargers play the Bengals right now, I would personally pick the Chargers to win the game.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick Justin Herbert to win that game.
That's fair. All right. Well, I think that does it. You've heard our recaps. You've heard our power rankings. Make sure to come back next week. Before I let everybody go, I do want to just say real quick our standings for our pick'ems, just so everyone has an idea of where we're at. If my phone doesn't die before I get there, Kendall is number 1 in the whole group. We have 9. How many picks do you have, Chase? Like 18, 19? Total.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know I missed the Thursday night game, the first one.
Kendall has 21. I know for sure. I have 20 because there's like a 4-way tie for 20.
Oh, that I got right? Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Here, it's about to pull up.
All I know is I've got fucked over
Yeah,
and over again.
you were wrong on a couple games this week too. The Saints, man, you picked the Saints. It helped you out.
I did pick the Saints.
You picked the Panthers. I saw it.
I picked the Saints.
No, you didn't. I literally watched it. You were the only person that didn't pick the Saints, actually.
Kendall, you didn't pick the Saints? You didn't pick the Panthers?
Heck, I'm going to pick the Panthers.
All right. Okay.
All right. Screw it. I can't get my phone to load. But thanks for watching. Obviously, if you've made it to this point in the video, we really appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment,
16?
subscribe. You got 16, 20, 21.
Me and Big Will are tied. He started late.
That's not a good thing.
He didn't even get to pick the Thursday night opener to start the year, and he was definitely picking the Lions.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too because I can override games in there, and I was like, should I override this for Big Will? But then I was like, well, I'd have to do it for everybody then. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Who dat? Go Saints.
Raider Nation.
We say go Birds around here.